I'm Norman Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me as we explore places to go and things to do. Come along with me today. We're going up on the roof, Fiddler on the Roof. Fiddler on the Roof at the Westchester Broadway Theater, a classic, a show that everybody knows is one of the best. It's unbelievable. And we're going to really get an insight into how it works today, because my guest today is Tevye himself, Mike Burstyn, who is the star who's playing Tevye at the Westchester Broadway Theater. I'm so delighted that we can get you off the stage, away from your milk cart and away from your horse, which, by the way, never makes it onto the stage.
I'm the horse.
You're the horse.
I'm the horse.
But you're playing in what has to be called a theater masterpiece. Everything is perfect about this, the characters and everything. How does it feel? What is it? You're an actor. You've been an actor since you're 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And how does it feel playing in a masterpiece? What does it do to you as an actor?
First of all, it's, I think, been my dream for many years to play Tevye. I had a colleague, dear friend, who to me was the probably one of the finest Tevyes, and that was Herschel Bernard. And so,
who also starred as a child actor.
That's right. And also his family and my family worked together many, many decades ago in the Yiddish theater in New York. And so we had this similar background. And I see myself in a way as taking over that mantle that Hershey left when he passed away, too young, unfortunately.
Too long,
But I always dreamed of playing Tevye, and I was never young enough. I was never old enough. And finally, about 3 years ago, I was asked to do Tevye, strangely enough, in Utah, a production in Salt Lake City, a Mormon production. And I agreed. It was an opportunity to sink my teeth into it. And it was such a... From the moment I started the first day of rehearsal, I didn't have to think about it. I just know the man, I know the character, he just comes out of me. I don't think this is the first time I haven't thought about what am I supposed to do. It just happens.
But with all the people who have played it, from Zero Mostel, Herschel Bernardi, the film, I mean, there were so many people who have played it over the years in large productions and small productions. Almost from the very moment that you come on the stage at the Westchester Broadway Theater, you make it your own. There's something that happens that says, this is my part. And it comes across immediately.
Well, it's hard for me to discuss myself as a performer, but I grew up in the Yiddish theater on 2nd Avenue years ago, and there was a little kind of a description when you said that somebody had something special on stage that came across the footlights. It was called the rozhinke. It really, rozhinke is a raisin, literally. But what it meant was he's got something a little extra that the audience immediately identifies with. And some people have it and some don't. And I'm lucky that I was born into a family of performers. Plus the fact that there are two other things. This is a part, this is a dream for any actor. The part of Tevye is one of the greatest roles ever written in the theater, especially the musical theater. And secondly...
Because of the combination of what?
Because of the character himself. He's so rich, and he is so human, and so believable, and he's so real, and he's so lovable. It's so easy to identify with him, especially, I believe, in my case, because I'm a younger Tevye. Tevye is usually conceived as an older man.
I never thought about that when I was watching you.
Well, people usually, when they imagine Tevye, they imagine a big, heavy, older man.
Is that because of Zero Mostel?
Probably, although Zero was not that old when he first originated the role in 1964. He was probably in his 50s.
Yes.
But usually you think of Tevye as an older, gray grandfather more than father. And what's happening with me, I think, is that the younger people, younger couples, can identify with Golda and Tevye now, because when in those days, in the previous century, when they married in Europe, they weren't more than in their teens or 20s. People used to marry. The girl may have been 18 or 16. My grandmother got married, she was 16. Tevye may have been 20. So by the time they had a 22-year-old daughter, he was 42.
Yes.
So they really should not be that old. And I think people today identify more with the plight of Tevye and Golda in our production, because you have couples in their 40s who have teenage children, and they identify more with it.
There's something that's said with you sitting on the milk wagon. I mean, that says so much. The horse, which never appears, you're the horse, and yet sitting there, and if I were a rich man, I mean...
What Tevye is Sholem Aleichem. Whenever you start with such a brilliant, basic text as Sholem Aleichem's stories, this is based on the Sholem Aleichem stories of Tevye and his daughters. When you start with that, it's like when you construct a building. If your blueprints and your foundation is solid, then the building is going to be great. We have such a great foundation. Tevye is a Jewish everyman. He is the famous story, true story that Jerry Bach, the composer, told me. It's been done all over the world. Yeah. And when he went to the opening in Japan, the Japanese actor who played Tevye at the opening night party came over to Jerry Bach and said, "I'd like to ask you, I've been meaning to ask this one question. How did you know so much about our Japanese traditions?" He said, "What are you talking about? This is about a Jewish man in Russia." He said, no. This is about our traditions and our culture in Japan, which means it's universal.
Yeah, it is universal, and that's what amazed me, because you said that the first time that you played Tevye was in Utah.
And that's the most popular musical in Utah. They've done it over and over again because they identify even more so because of the history of the Mormon people, their background of discrimination against them, and they were persecuted for many years until they finally came to their Zion in Utah and established their community. They also believe that they are descendants of two of the tribes of Israel. So they very much identify, and it's a patriarchal society. They love the show. The reactions in Utah...
So it's not a Jewish show?
No, it's a universal, because you're dealing with a problem of a man, and he's trying to provide for his family. A man and his family, and that can't be more
There are
universal.
so many memorable scenes. The wedding scene, for example, that's one of the scenes that always stand out in my mind. There's so much that's going on there during this scene, and of course, sunrise, sunset, which is, I mean, that always brings tears to people's eyes that they can identify with their own lives.
You have to understand also that as performers, it brings tears to our eyes as well, and I have to fight very often to control that so that I don't break up during that scene. When we first did it,
you see your own children? Now you have two children.
Of course. I see my children. I see my parents, my grandparents, how they thought about their children. It's just seriously. I used to fight at rehearsals and when we did our first run-throughs on stage to control those tears, because if we break up, it's not. It's not real when you break up on stage. We have to control our emotions. Yes. It's the audience that has to react emotionally.
And the dancing.
Well, this is interesting. Fiddler on the Roof is a play and a musical that has been going on now for, 33 years? In 1964?
64, yeah.
And there's a reason for it. It's put together so well. It is constructed in every aspect of the music, the choreography. Not many people realize why it is so uniformly well done wherever you go. There is even a legal requirement. The choreography is written. Every movement, not just every step, but every movement of a finger or a hand is written in the score. Jerome Robbins actually copyrighted the choreography. So when any production that's done of Fiddler legally is bound to use every movement in the score.
That's an interesting point, which I wondered about as I was seeing this. A lot of the shows that are put on by Westchester Broadway Theatre, others, you cannot use the original choreography because it's playing somewhere else, or they're bringing it back to Broadway. This one has to be done exactly as Jerome Robbins choreographed it.
It is one of the requirements when you sign the contract for the royalty rights. It is in there. You cannot change a finger movement. Literally, it is just as the music is written in the score, so is the choreography. Every movement must be done according to Jerome Robbins, and there's a reason for it. It has kept this production and this musical going for 33 years. Why tamper with perfection? There's a formula here. When you put together a perfect formula, you don't mess with it. It's perfect.
The scene where the Russians suddenly emerge, first as a threat and then as less of a threat, and get involved. I mean,
in the tavern,
it's a surprise. I've always felt that theater needs surprises. That's why I don't like to read blurbs or read reviews in advance, because I want to be surprised. And suddenly, in this tavern scene, the Russians are there in the background, just extras, so to speak, and suddenly emerge.
Well, not just surprises, but in Fiddler, I think what exemplifies it and sets it apart from many other musicals is the dichotomy that happens constantly on stage. We go from laughter to tears in a split second, literally. Tevye goes from an enormously dramatic and one of the most the harshest scenes that he has with one of his daughters, who wants to marry a non-Jew. He goes from that moment, in a split second he turns and tells it, and literally does a joke. And that's the miracle of this play. It's also what has always typified the Jewish people throughout its history, is that laughter and tears have always come together.
Is it difficult for you to make that change, that transition? Yeah.
I thought it would be difficult, but because of the way it's written, it works. Somehow it works. You wouldn't believe that a man that goes from one moment saying to his daughter, I said, no, never talk about this again, never mention his name again, never see him again, never. And he turns around and his wife says, we got to go home. And he says, I want to see the sewing machine. And he says, quiet woman, before I get angry. And when I get angry, even flies refuse to fly. And she says, I'm very frightened of you. And the audience breaks up. A split second before, there was a hush in the audience because this man was at his most serious. And then
another bit of humor takes place when he looks at the sewing machine.
Oh yes, because Tevye basically is a pushover. He puts on this macho image, and supposedly he tells the audience that he's the man of the family. But we all know who the real boss is, and it's Golda. So that's another such a human trait that people can identify with. The man who is. And the other thing is, what I think is very special is you're dealing with a dilemma, a man who is living in a world that's changing, and he's trying to maintain his equilibrium and hold on to his traditions, what this show is really about.
And of course, in the scene which we're about to show now, some of the tradition is of course tremendous in that, when we talk about this a little bit.
The Friday night scene, yes, the Sabbath prayer, but that's, when you talk about why do people love this show, Jews and non-Jews, when they first produced this, they were very much afraid that this was a show that would only be appropriate for Hadassah or B'nai B'rith or Jewish audiences. And the miracle through more than 3 decades is that audiences throughout the world, from every walk of life, every religious background, every ethnic background, love the show. And it's because of, I guess, that opening number tradition. People, I think, deep down want to maintain a link with their roots and with where they come from. And if you know where you come from, you can know where you're going. And a lot of people lose their direction because they don't know where they've come come from.
I don't want to lose sight of what you just said, where they come from. But first, I do want to remind our viewers that we're talking about The Fiddler on the Roof, which is at the Westchester Broadway Theater. And Tevye himself, Mike Burstyn, is here today, and we're talking about the show, this wonderful show, and this wonderful, wonderful performance done, as we learned today, exactly as it was done over 30 years ago, because that's the way Jerome Robbins played it. We're talking about what went before. You come out, we've touched on it here, you come out of a theater family. Your
Right.
father, Pesach Bernstein, your mother, Lillian Lux, in the theater all their lives,
Yes.
and you were born into the theater. A lot of the tradition of the Yiddish theater, of course, has a lot of that. What happens is it become in your blood? I interviewed Oscar Hammerstein III here, and he was telling me about all the people in the family, in the Hammerstein family, his great-grandfather and his grandfather, of course, who was Oscar Hammerstein of South Pacific and all the others, how everybody, brothers, sisters, uncles, all went into the theater. And he said it very well. Look, he says, that's the family business. The family business. Is the theater the family business with you?
It was for me. It's not for my sons, because they chose other professions. They grew up in the theater environment, and I didn't want them to go into it the way my parents put me into it, literally. But when you grow up in the theater, and especially in the Yiddish theater, there was such a wonderful world on 2nd Avenue. I'm talking about when I was born in the 40s.
Now, you were born in the United States.
In the States.
You made your theater debut at the age 7 in Buenos Aires.
Right.
And you became I hope you're not going to feel that I'm putting you in an immodest position. You became a superstar in Israel.
In Israel, yes.
In Israel, you've done television, stage, movies, won many awards.
Yes.
It's astounding of all this. And here, Barnum, you did the Barnum, and so many shows. You did Rothschilds, and just recently, it was interesting to me, I saw you in Rothschilds at the American Jewish Theater, and then I saw you when it moved off Broadway, and one of the sons in that is who was then a young man, who I think Westchester audiences know about, who just recently, the other day, was nominated for Tony, Robert Cuccioli, for Jekyll and Hyde.
Very proud of one of my sons. You see, The Rothschilds is the opposite of Fiddler, written by the same people, by the way, Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick. After the success of Fiddler, they wrote The Rothschilds. Fiddler is about a poor Jewish milkman with 5 daughters. The Rothschilds is about a very wealthy Jewish banker and 5 sons. Just the opposite, which is interesting to have played both patriarchs. But you know that when I was born, the theater on 2nd Avenue, the Yiddish theater, was so enormously successful. They used to come from Broadway to learn how to do a musical comedy, because there were great stars. There was Molly Picon and Menashe Skolnick and great people that Tomaszewski and the Adler family. When my father came over in 1924, he was brought over by Boris Tomaszewski. These were great productions. This play, this musical, if this were 40, 50 years ago, it would not have been done on Broadway. It would have been done on 2nd Avenue as a Yiddish musical. These are the kind of productions that I grew up seeing when I was a baby. Actually, I walked on stage at the age of 3. My first debut, not professionally, but I was pushed on stage at the National Theater on 2nd Avenue by some of my father's colleagues while he was performing a Christmas matinee. And I was a little 3-year-old, and I walked out and stopped the show. And that was my first memory of being on stage. Interestingly enough, 10 years later, when I was 13, at my bar mitzvah, in the same theater, the National Theater, on Houston and 2nd Avenue, my father rented the theater and put on a performance for my bar mitzvah. And Zero Mostel, who originated the role of Tevye, was performing on the roof of that theater, Ulysses in Nighttown. And he came down after his performance and performed a scene in my honor at my bar mitzvah. And so that's...
So the tradition continues.
Yes. Tradition. But it was a tradition that, unfortunately, my sons decided not to continue in it, and I don't blame them. It's a very difficult profession. It's not something I would wish on...
But you've had so much success in it. I mean, not only do you sing, you dance, you direct, you do straight shows. You're a quadruple threat man, if that's enough. And there are so many aspects of the theater that you're capable of doing.
Yes, but it's a profession where you do not control your own destiny. And after 40-some-odd years of being in the business, if I had gone into law or medicine, I wouldn't really have to be worrying. I'd have a practice, and I wouldn't have to worry, where's my next job coming
So many performers have said that to me.
And that's the worst part of this business, is that you don't control. It's always up to someone else.
It's interesting.
No matter how successful you've been.
Now, I interviewed Betty Comden here a few months ago, and nobody's had more success in the theater than Comden and Green. And she told me that they were always working on the next show, because after this show, you've got nothing. And even now, they are working together on something for Disney. It's amazing. You always are working on something else. I interviewed Barbara Eisenberg, who last week, who did Making It Big, the behind-the-scenes story of Big. And she said while they were working on Big, all of the people involved were working on 2 or 3 different things at the same time. And that's what's going on in this wonderful, terrible business that you're in.
But that's the business we're in. So, when people ask me, young people come over and ask me, what are my recommendations? They want to be in show business. They want to be actors. What do I, suggest? And the first thing I say is you have to be madly in love with it.
Yes. Are you?
If you can't live without it, then you might as well go ahead. But if you can live without it, find something else and just enjoy it as a hobby.
Are you madly in love with it?
Yeah, well, I had no choice. I was born into it from my first memories of living and breathing the stage. And I learned the business by doing as an apprentice. I don't believe so much in schools for acting.
There's so much wonderful theater that's there. We can talk about this year's, the new productions, the old productions, and what's happening, what's successful, not successful. But when you think about some of the things that the Westchester Broadway Theater is going to be doing this year after Fiddler, South Pacific, West Side Story, I mean, it's incredible. Man of La Mancha. I just can't believe what they're doing here at this theater with the great masterpieces.
Yeah, this is a series of classics, musical classics, and I think people want to go back to the good, clean entertainment that we used to have in a musical theater, and that is kind of, I think, when you look at what's happening on Broadway in the last few weeks, some of the reactions that are coming out are that finally let's see a good old-fashioned musical without all these problematic themes and revolutionary ideas. People want to go to the theater, especially at the prices they're charging today, $75 a ticket. Let's get back to the reason for musical comedy. Musical comedy is the American classical theater. It was created in this country. Let's get back to those traditions, those roots, where people come to see a musical. They want to be entertained. I mean, they've got enough problems, but the bottom line is it entertaining? That's what they're paying for. We're in the entertainment business. We're not there to educate or to preach. There are other people.
It seems to be a trend towards darker themes in the theater.
There is, but I think there's also a trend now to come back to basic entertainment.
But will basic entertainment sell today? That's the key question. One of the things talk about selling is...
Have you seen Beauty and the Beast? When that came out, people said, who is going to go to see a musical?
Yeah, but that's a
Disney musical on Broadway.
But I consider that to be a children's show. So.
Oh, no. If it was a children's show, it would have been gone long ago.
I guess you're right on that. One of the things that we absolutely want to be sure to do is to tell people where they can get more information about the Fiddler and all the other shows that are coming up.
I happen to know the telephone.
You do?
Yes.
Well,
just
what is it?
Just by coincidence. It's area code 914-592-22 22.
That's an easy
number to remember.
Easy number. And you know, because I'm never sure about whether my guests will remember the numbers, I'll put it up in the closing credits anyway.
Why didn't you repeat it?
Well, I do know it. It's 592-2222, but I also know that it's 914, just to make sure that we get the area on it.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that, first of all, having known your work for so many years, that it's a pleasure as well as an honor to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
Second of all, to be able to sit here across the table and tell you personally what you've done for me in Fiddler on the Roof. Another step in the relationships between Mike Burstyn and Norman Liss, and helped me to enjoy the theater so much. And I thank you for this show, and I thank you for everything else you've done.
Thank you.
And I thank you for coming here today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Today, we're talking, of course, about Fiddler on the Roof at the Westchester Broadway Theater, and Mike Burstyn, who is Tevye, the star, and what a star. Great show. If you've ever seen it before and loved it, you'll love it now, maybe more. Go see it. I'm Norman Liss. The name of this program is The Way to Go. And until next time, enjoy yourself.